I have not made a video about one of the case studies in a little while. When somebody gave me this case, and I have to admit, now I'm cheating a little bit because I've skimmed through this case already. Um, when I read this case, it looked a little intimidating to me. I don't know what kind of suggestions I have for you. One of the biggest suggestions I have is don't think, oh my God, I can just take a template from somebody else. I can steal somebody else's. I can use some magic, whatever, not AI, but that's for me. A lot of the people who are so obsessed with AI love this idea of, oh, I'm going to press a button. It's going to give me every answer. Oh my God. Let's just ask AI to do it or something like that. Maybe you can do that. Who knows? Maybe. Okay, my suggestion is to practice a lot. My suggestion is to read through the case pretty carefully. And my other suggestion is to do what would be so impossible for me to do, which is not get too intimidated by this stuff. Now, they put a time limit on this case, and in this case, there were kind of two different models you have to do. And if you haven't seen, I haven't seen some of this stuff. Of course, I haven't. I shouldn't say, of course, you should act in finance like, oh, I know exactly every little term they're throwing out. It's obviously some kind of finance person who made this thing that wanted to, oh, whatever, intimidate you and show how smart they are. Okay. So I'm going to start now. Let's not have the timing start with this little introduction. I don't know. So let's see if I go through this, if we can, if we can make it reasonable. Okay. And I'm not going to get worried about the time right now, although the stress, the time creates stress. Time creates risk. So much about life and risk and stress is about time when you really think about it, and uncertainty. Uncertainty combined with deadlines. Enough of that. Let's start. So X, let's remember X is they are going to invest. So they want a valuation of two business segments, project level equity for offshore wind farm, OFSW, offshore wind, okay? A platform level equity investment. God, that just pisses the hell out of me when I see this kind of stuff. I have no idea what that really means of earlier stages. Oh shit, what's he doing? God, he bugs it. Okay, of earlier stage wind projects, development pipeline together with the offshore, a full portfolio. So you're immediately intimidated. You think, oh my God, we've got to put two things together, but don't get so intimidated. So they want an offshore equity investment on a standalone basis, a development pipeline on a standalone basis. You have 3 hours, and they want a full portfolio where you add them together, basically. And you have 3 hours to do this, and you have to make key assumptions, a standalone project cash flows. And then the question I have, should you start typing things immediately or just read through it? I think we should read through it. It'll take a little bit of the stress away. And you need a return summary. So let's not forget about that. And then some slide presentation that I won't do. Sum of the parts evaluation, which is basically putting the two together and doing a separate valuation and putting them together. Some sensitivities. And immediately I see that input S, no, input C, excuse me, input C, and get it structured so you can do the scenarios. Again, I never used to do it like this, and it's so key. Okay, and the same thing here. So you set up an input S, C, excuse me, and put some of that stuff in. And then they have some timing. Assume a start model of 1 January 2023, 24-month construction. Remember that. And 15-year operating period. Fiscal, I don't see why that would make any difference. But what they want is a 24-month construction period, and they want monthly and semi-annual. So let's practice doing that really well. And for me, the key thing is to use a little E date function or EO month function that switches from 1 to 6. Okay, and then they have a NTP payment. So this is confusing. It's payable by the project to the developer at financial close, a fee. So the project has to pay an outflow of 50 million. And then they have CapEx. And financial close must be the first day. They don't really say that. And then they have 1 to 12 months, 25. And immediately when I see that, and 13 to 24, I say, let's use a lookup function. Okay, and let's set the kind of stuff up with a nice little timeline. We can fit that all into input C. And the other thing to do is don't try to use some fancy, fast modeling standard, all the fucking bullshit. Just do it yourself. Don't go take some class in some goddamn Wall Street prep or something. Do it yourself. Okay, and then they put the capacity, blah, 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 capacity factor, all very standard. They even tell you how to do it. And that they need the hours in the relevant period, so you're going to have to take the dates and convert them into hours. Okay, that's going to be a little thing. Availability, again, you have a lookup function here. I just recently spoke to somebody who says, don't ever use a lookup function in a model. Oh my God, why not? Okay, it slows Excel down a tiny little bit, but the way they slow Excel down with these gigantic models is totally different. I'm getting off track. Sorry about that. Revenue assumptions. So they have a 10-year PPA. PPA is that. Revenue is paid semi-annually. So somewhere they must have told us to do semi-annually. I can't remember where they did actually, that they clearly wanted monthly pre-construction and then semi-annually. 30% is inflation, so you got to do some inflation indices, merchant power. All of that, you should say, okay, I'm not that intimidated by that model. That model we should get done easily, and then some OPEX and then some project finance debt, and then the debt. This what bugs me is clearly if you have an upfront fee and monthly, you're going to have a circular reference. Just use the goddamn iteration button here. I love copy and paste. Don't try to show off by doing stuff that will get you off track. Interest, and they're paid semi-annually. So they want you to get familiar with the timeline. And then they have this little thing. Oh shit, is this God damn it. I gotta pause the video now. Okay. And they don't have, at least they don't have taxes. I'm sorry to get back. I've been told am I recording now? Yes. Okay. All right. And then this is a little bit painful. And I would strongly recommend when you do this business, I get a little fancy with LLCRs and all this crap. It says there are two methods to compute debt, and you should take the minimum. Okay, the maximum loan to value or the debt to capital versus the debt sizing. And the only thing that might be a little bit complicated is that damn development cost. And I guess that's part of the CapEx. And then you've got IDC and all that stuff. Okay. And then they have some equity assumptions. A portion of the NTP fee, CapEx debt that is not funded will be funded by equity. Of course, assume pro rata. It's all kind of standard project finance. Okay. Then they have the pipeline. This is interesting when you really look at it. The pipeline occurs they have exactly the same financial close. They have the same 24-month period. I had to go up and check, and that makes it all kind of a lot easier. And then they want semi-annual again. Okay, so we've got to set up the timeline. What I'm suggesting is to do three sheets. One sheet with the offshore wind, one sheet with whatever this thing is, platform, and another sheet where they're combined. And if they have the same uh, 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 the same timeline, you just add up the revenues, EBITDA, whatever. And you can even just add the equity cash flows, basically. But yeah, it's got to look a little better than that. The total development pipeline is 1.5 gigawatts, not gigabytes. Annual carrying cost to develop the pipeline is subject to 2.5% annual carrying charge. And I have no idea really exactly what that kind of means. Let's see if we can figure it out. 300 megawatts are sold every few years post financial close, with 300 occurring 3 years post financial close. I guess post financial close is after the 25 periods, and that means you're going to have to do a counter from the financial close and count how many months there are and then how many years there are, and then do a little a roundup for that one. Proceeds from the sale of the initial pipeline is supposed to be, so you sell it and you get this much, and the 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 cost to develop the pipe is per kW and subject to and so that's the development cost. They don't tell you exactly here. This is very frustrating. I can't see what exactly how the capex or how the investment is made. Equity funds, semi-annual, uh, 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 shortfall. Assume 100% of the in each is assume 100% of cash flow available is uh, uh, for each cent is post development cost will be distributed to the equity. No change in the underlying assumptions for the OS so that's when you put all the portfolio together. So my only question is for me, and it's a hard one, is how in the hell are they uh, 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 how in the hell are they make, what does this carrying charge business mean? I just admit I don't know exactly what it means, but we'll figure it out in the model, I hope. So show the DSCR and show the IRR money multiple. Jesus fucking Christ. This is just adding up the investment and adding up the equity cash flow. NTP, what discount rate does the NTP fee represent? Oh, no, we have to look at that. I suppose you, oh, I don't know right now. If they were targeting a holding period till maturity, what could we do as affordable? So I guess that's what they're meaning, the IRR on this thing. And I think we just have to do it. I wouldn't worry about that right now. Standalone pipeline, show sources and uses, show all of that. So it's all kind of being put together. And I'm sorry if I'm missing some of this, but let's just go and try. So what I did here, I kind of cheated. Okay, this took 1 minute. I just copied this into an Excel file, and let's call this the instructions. And let's call this the offshore wind, offshore wind. Is that assumptions? And then let's put the development pipeline assumptions. Maybe I've already gone too long. And then let's put the uh, offshore OSW off OF short OFSW FM. Let's call it that. Okay. Oh God, I've already wasted time like crazy. I'm sorry. And then finally, let's put uh, uh, the development pipeline. Okay. Now I'm not sure this is the right way to do it. Uh, uh, FM, and let's do a consolidated. Okay. If we can get a handle on uh, 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 and maybe we could put some ratios here. Now, when we do this, let's just make sure we don't waste time on some of this crap, which for me is like putting three little columns here, or if you want to put four, whatever you want to do, okay? And then now let's maybe let's see how efficient we can be and watch me grew up. And I hate it when people comment on my stuff and say, "Oh, you're kind of an idiot here." Let's put some timing assumptions. And since they're the start, maybe I'm doing both of these at the same time. And let's put financial close date. And below the financial close date, let's the big deal is months of construction or development. And notice, oh God, I can't do any. Okay, and then you know, let's do the thing that I think is so important here. Let's put this as a date and then, ooh, I want to use generic macros. I'll do it without it, and then I'll color it at the very end. How's that? And do the formatting. Let's put months, and that we said was 24, but let's put 24 over here and call this the base case. And then we have all those other sensitivity cases, and let's put our scenario number here because we know we're going to have to do some scenarios. Don't try to just just go talk to your friends. I want to know the trick to doing this. You got to do it yourself. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm crying. And then in the instructions here, I forgot it was 1/1/2023, I think. Shift Control 3. Okay, I can't remember exactly what it was. Maybe I've got it here. It was up here. Shit, see, I'm wasting time, and I should have done this. Oh, God damn it. Yeah, I got that right. Okay, and then we have 24 months of construction, and remember, I still have all of this done. And then after the 24 months of construction, we could put commercial operation. And in the commercial operation, let's put that as a date, and let's put that E date, this, comma, this, and then Shift Control 3. Okay, just get that done. This is really hurting me not to do with generic macros. And then let's put an index, and let's go over here. We'll do a whole bunch of scenarios, and then we'll put F4 and copy that. And then what you can do is Control C, Alt EST for formats. Okay. Once we have the commercial operation, let's put the operating holding period because it's fancier than let's put the holding period. And after you put the holding period, let's put that as years. And I remember one of them was 15 years. I can't remember if the other one is. And whoops, and I did it wrong already. that you want this here, and you want to copy this like this, and then we could put end of model and put a date here. And this time, let's again go here. And this time, when you do it, you better multiply this by 12. And of course, you could get fancy and say, oh, no, 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 we better put the number of months per year and all that. If you have time, great. Okay. And then let's put months in period pre COD. That's what I call it. You know, you might call it something else. And that we have 1 month every period. And then let's put months in period post COD. And if you just get this right, then you'll get a very good start on this. Okay. Now, once you have this base case, then remember we could copy these cases, and in these cases you remember what they had. Then they had things like up here they had the merchant prices, capacity factor, operating cost, construction costs. So you can just get those right now. Merchant, I get emotional about this. Don't make all of them. Everybody, when they do this, they make them kind of merchant prices, capacity factor. Okay, and so they obviously want you to do this, and uh, they had capacity OpEx, and then okay, maybe, oh shit, maybe, okay, fine. With that capital expenditures, waste your time like I am and make it a little bit wider. What a goddamn waste of, okay, fine. Okay. Now, if you were really fancy, what you could do here, by the way, is you can select the whole thing because pretend they don't give you anything. And then you can press F5 and go to paste special. And when it's a constant, but it's not a text, then you press OK, and then you can maybe, whatever, put it in a different color. Okay. So, so you can get something done with coloring with a little bit without the generic macros. Maybe this, we should put a little bold here. And then let's start with the quantities. Okay, and then but this one we might now have to kind of change a little bit because this one had capacity and the other one didn't. And then after we put the quantities, let's put the how about the capex, and then below the capex, let's put the opex, and then and somewhere down here we'll put the financing. And in the CapEx, we'll have the development, that development fee thing, and the regular old CapEx, which had a lookup. Okay, so if you can do that, now if you go to this next sheet, luckily the whole thing was exactly the same. Okay, and then we can go and we at least did this, and now let's put our timing here. And when we put the timing in, let's here, for me, I suggest doing the following. I suggest putting a period number. I'm not absolutely sure we're going to need this. Now, I think, just a minute, I'm going to select both of them here, and I'm going to retype the timing and the period number. Now we have 24 months of construction, so we'll have 24 months plus 15 years times 30, so that's whatever, 54, and let's say we need a couple, let's make it go out to 70. So maybe put equal sequence, and maybe you're not allowed to do that, but I would put 70, and we're just kind of ready to go. And then uh, uh, let's begin with our construction period. Now, this I'm debating on because our timelines are really going to be exactly the same. Let's add a few things out here because we'll need some. So this is just going to be this is just going to be a number or something, and this is going to be again just a counter. No, this is going to be a flag, sorry, because it's going to be either true or false. Now I'm going to go to this one and get that. Now, when I go to the next page, it probably took the same thing, so I might have to do a little bit with that. But let's make this less than or equal to that one. And okay, you can also, whoops. And then let's do this because I don't have, I press Control, Shift, Control space bar, Shift Control right arrow, Control 0 to get rid of that. And then I'm just gonna, when I do this, Shift Control right arrow Control R. So we have the construction period, and then what I would do is put periods per year and put that as whatever months. Okay, it's really months in period. In, in period. And now this time I'm going to just take, this is just my trick. I'm sorry. I'm going to take ah, yeah, and then I'm going to take this one and for the first one make it 1 and then make it 6 over here. And then I'm going to go up and say if it's true, then we're going to take this one. Otherwise, we're going to take that one. Okay, and you know what you really don't want to do is copy these each time. I was told that by nasty people. Okay, and so now we can put our dates in. Start period and end period. And then I should have done this whole thing. Shoot, I should have done this whole thing in this one too. And maybe I'll just copy the timeline because they made it nice for me. And this is a date, and this is the end of the period is a date. And what I do is my little trick is I take the very, very first date and put -1. And then we start here with +1, and then we put equal E date, and then we take this date and put this date in and put -1, and then you can get the whole dates set up just that quickly. Okay, so we haven't taken all that long, and we've got the dates set up, and I haven't kind of cheated with generic macros or anything. And you remember they wanted at one time they want the hours in the period. So put days in period. Uh, okay, and let's take this one minus this one. But if you do that, it gives you, so you got to put +1, and then let's put hours in period. Okay, and just multiply this by 24. That's not quite right if there's the time change or whatever. And let's put operating period counter. I think they needed something like that. And what you can do there is put an equal sign, go back to this and go up to this one, but put not that, okay? So when it's not the construction period, we'll start counting. And then we could even put operating period year, because I think they needed this, if we remember, okay? This is again year counter or something. Okay, and I think for me it's good to kind of do this first and then if it's the year, what we have is once we get past this 24, these are all year one, and the next ones are all year two. So what you do is you use the round up, you take this one and round it up to the nearest, uh, 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 you would take this one, you divide this by two, and then put zero, and let's just make sure that that worked. Okay, so we have two ones, two twos, two threes, two fours, two fives. Okay, and now we have the same thing here. Oops, I thought I copied it all. Well, who cares? Okay, so hopefully, let's see. I'm gonna, uh, let's see what happens if I could just copy this whole thing. Sorry about that. And why did that stop copying? And then did I copy it from, I copied it from that one, from column I. I hope I put the same kind of columns in, and then we can let's put this one in, okay, and then we'll put the just a minute. End of period. So days in period. We have all this junk that we put in, and then we could really, I think, we could copy this whole thing. Uh, uh, we could copy this whole thing to the consolidated too. Okay, so let's try this. I'm not sure this is going to work. It probably won't. I copied it from line two, and it doesn't look that bad. Okay, now what we have to be a little bit careful of is, and that was because they allowed us to cheat, and so the whole thing's not very real, because if you have a completely different project, and that's when I really do consolidation, the uh, uh, hey, come on, control space bar and make it a little bit wider. Okay, and then let's put what happened to my column D? Okay, whatever, and let's maybe put some kind of alt WFF here. Okay, and let's put the same thing here, kind of just this alt WFF. And let's remember on this development portfolio that we had this one. Oh, interesting. Oh, I took this from the development period. I should have taken this, this one from as if it really matters, because they're all the same, from this one. Okay, now I'm not sure this is what they really wanted, and okay, and whatever. If we use our generic macro, we could even kind of do this. And I guess I should do one more thing. Sorry about this, but I better put the right over here. Let's put the operating period. And let's do this. Let's try to do it all in one thing. So I'm gonna retype period, and then this is a flag variable, and let's put the start date of the commercial operation here and the end date of the commercial operation here, and use a little and say, well, it's always the first of the year. It's got to be greater than or equal to the start date. And this thing, again, the top one has to be less than the end date. If you multiply this by one, you can get it to be a one and a zero, and then you could do like a sum column up here. Okay, and we can add all of those together. Okay, so I almost feel like, okay, we've got 30 periods, which is 15 years, which is good. And if we do a sum of the construction periods, we've got the same kind of 24 periods, I hope, which I did it incorrectly. Oh, let's put this one, let's put a little bracket around this and multiply by one and copy it across. Okay, so that's how fast we can start to set this up. Alt WFF, I lost my A column and Alt WFF. Okay, so now let's, after we have this timeline set up, which is a really, really big deal, and it's that the IRR on that is really worth it. Now let's go back and get some of our operating assumptions. And my suggestion is this, the offshore wind, OFSW, did I write that correctly? Is a lot easier because it's very standard, all of this kind of stuff. And then I didn't put conversion sales, pipeline sales. Oh, this is for the other one. Okay, perhaps I'll whatever. Let's even copy this into it later. Okay, then let's put the offshore wind assumptions, and we've got that 24, 15 years construction period, end period. Let's do the CapEx, which is NTP payment. Okay, that's notice to proceed payment. Let's even be fancy. Okay, so let's put NTP TP payment. And it doesn't look like we had any kind of thing. This is 50. I suggest doing this. There is no reason you have to. I suggest putting it in actual USD or euros and not getting screwed up with all the units all the time. Okay, capex of 540 for 2 years, spread over 2 years, months 1 to 25. So let's put the total capex. Okay, and that's 540 million. Okay, and now we'll call this the oh shoot, Abdulaki, I gotta talk to you in a minute. Let's put this as start. Let's put first period end, and that ended in 12, and the other one ended in 24. So this was from 12, and the other one second period and okay, and then sorry, I guess I misspelled it. Then 24. Okay, and let's to set this up right. Let's go over here and get these. Okay, and of course take this and try to do this EST quickly and shoot, I didn't mean to make it larger. I meant to. Okay, and then so maybe let's start with our and then the first period capex. Okay, period capex, and the second period capex. And I hate that you have to waste all your time typing this. And then we had a capex plus or minus. So what I really need to do is put up here, I think we had capex plus, what was this, 10%? Is that what it was? And we can set this up right away. So this was, we need to go up a little bit here and uh, plus or minus 10%. Okay, so let's set that up. So this is CapEx, and then this is going to be CapEx minus 10%. So I think they wanted you to do something like this. And what I should have done is went up here, and then we can put, if we put number two, we can put all of these in, and just in a minute we'll be able to do the whole fancy thing and do it as quickly as we possibly can. I'm so tempted to put my little spinner boxes in and do all of that stuff, but I'm not going to, because this is we're in a time constraint. And let's then go down and put our it was 25 million and then 20 million. So that was bad news if they have to spend it faster at the beginning. 25, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then 20. It would be better to spend it later, less at the beginning and more at the end. Okay, and then you could, we don't, it turns out we don't really need this one, but let's just, how about this? Let's take this one times 1.1. I don't see what in the heck is the matter with this, you know, or if you really wanted to do it, you could copy and paste specialist values, and let's take this one times zero point 0.9 and this one times zero point 0.9. And then you have really started to get all of these you see how to set up the whole input S and all that. So if we go to whatever 6 or something, that's our capex minus that, 5 is plus, 1 is back to the base case. Okay, so we can set up the whole thing, and why don't we now put our I'm gonna leave the operations blank for a minute, although they're almost implying that you should do the capex first. Uh, and then we put NTP, and then maybe what NT NTP fee, and let's put a flag in for that. Okay, FC flag, which is a silly flag, but it's almost easier to do it. So let's just put when this thing up here, our counter equals 1. Okay, okay, and then I know I should have copied it, and then we can put our NTPC, and let's put that in USD and put that over here and get our this one. And I can't remember if we had to do any kind of thing. Oops, I I wanted to use my generic macros, and I'm not. And let's and then I'm gonna have to make everything wider, but let's multiply this by the flag. Jeez. I got to do something better with my formatting. Okay, let's format the whole thing at the end, and then let's put the capex 1, and let's try this. This is going. I'm going to use a lookup. How about capex period? And that's just splitting our period, and let's do this as a flag, or no, let's just do this as a number. And I wanted to get fancy with lookup, and that would have been stupid. And then so this we'll put and this thing. We have our do we have let's put construction counter. Then just try to do it fast. Let's get the construction period, okay? And then if it's, so let's put equal this is less than or equal to this. And then we they said, well, this is the capex, and then let's put the capex period 1 and 2 or something like this, and let's make this one. It started with it ended with 12. I think this is almost, we don't need this. We could just put equal, not not this, but also and the the uh, the construction period. Okay, and maybe let's do this a little bit better. Maybe we'll put this as a 1 and a 0. If you had that generic macro, it would all do that for you. Okay, and so we have these ones, and if we are really careful, we could sum these. Okay, and okay, get this done, and then let's put see, wasting time on this is, I hate this. Okay, and then capex. Let's try this in USD, and let's put this one. Let's put we have 25 million for the first one, and then for the second one we have 20 million, and then I think we can probably say, well, let's take this little flag, multiply it by this, and add this little flag and multiply it by that. Okay, again, I haven't thought of this, and okay, there could be better ways to do this. Okay, and hopefully when we do our sum to check things, everything's going to be all right, and there it is. And maybe let's put our this one, okay, like this, okay, and good, okay, and then we put, after we put our, that's we've kind of got our total expenditures, which we probably won't need. Control D and just all just this plus that. Good enough. Okay. Okay, and then now let's, after we do the capex, let's just go down. This offshore wind again was much easier. We have capacity of 200 megawatts. Everything at COD. Each turbine has a 60% capacity factor, assuming 8,760 hours a year, which is a little bit tricky because well, I guess that's okay. We got to be a little bit careful about this. Not so careful. I'm not sure. I'm gonna not get worried about that too much. So let's put the capacity here, and then capacity factor. Okay, and the capacity was oh, sorry about that. It was uh, uh, 200 megawatts and 60%, but remember there was a sensitivity on the capacity factor. So at least for the base case, it was 200, I hope. And this was megawatts. And don't forget this kind of stuff. And the capacity factor was 60%. And they kind of told you what to do about that one. And that's really that you could call that the annual capacity factor. And then let's copy this one here, but then they wanted remember, a capacity factor sensitivity, And the capacity factor sensitivity, they wanted to be uh, uh, up here, plus or minus 10%. Okay? And so we're ready to set the whole thing up. So we put right up here, plus 10%, and we put the capacity here factor as minus 10%. And I'm not sure this is kind of the other, well, maybe I'll put the low cases first, and then because that's what we did with the other one, plus. And then what you can do is you can just go all the way down here and press Control R, and it will do it all. And then, so let's put this as a 50% and this as 70%. Totally unrealistic that you'd ever get anything like a 70% capacity factor. There would be no such thing. I'll just Shift Control 5 here, okay, and then we'll get it. And we have to, while I'm doing this, I'm thinking we've got to make sure that when we add up the generation, we can multiply it, I think, by the hours, and we'll be totally fine. So let's put our operations up here. Ah, okay. Sorry to be so bad at spelling. Maybe I would have done. Okay, and let's put MW and get that from our sheet, and then just take this one and lock it and multiply that by the operating period, okay? So we don't start the capacity until and then let's put capacity factors. And of course, you know that you can when you do this, you can. I'm just gonna copy this all the way across, and then let's put. We got the hours in the period up here, and then so if we put generation, and we just put it as MWH, we include the hours, and just multiply the capacity by the capacity factor by the hours. Okay. Uh, okay. Okay. I can't stand this without my little generic macros trick. So we've got this is correct. Okay, we've multiplied these and we've got it correct by period, and there's a little bit difference in each period. Okay, and we're kind of getting there with that just that quickly with the model. Okay, and then we put our uh, uh, we've got our capacity assumptions, and then we've got availability, and the availability will degrade over time. So we've got that. It's almost the same thing. We need the 10-year. Oh, they degrade to 95% over 10 years. So let's just work through that. Oh, they want to show you fancy. Okay, so uh, uh, degradation over over 10 years. Now we could do this. I'm just gonna do the calculation right here. So this is 95%, and that means that our annual degradation would be up here. We would take this number. If it degrades to this, it's this number raised to the 1 divided by 10 power minus 1 minus 1, and I think that's correct. Let's put an extra decimal here. This is how much it degrades by, and then uh, if you wanted to prove that, just really quickly, I'm kind of wasting time on this, and I'm sorry I'm doing this equal sequence. And let's just put 10 periods, and then we'll just start with one, and then not not like that, one, and then take this one times one plus the this factor. Okay, and then let's just go down to here and make sure it then degrades to 95%. So they ask some tricky little question here. And then they say, fuck them. And then they go in the final 10 years, they go to 90%. So the amount of degradation in the last 5 years is not what we have to do is take equal uh, 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 90% divided by 95%. That's the additional degradation. Oh God, I hate this. Did I do that right? But that's over this time. This additional degradation is over 1 divided by 5 years minus 1. Okay, and let's put a couple of extra decimals. So we have a bigger degradation here. And if we want to prove that that's correct, we can put equal sequence, and then we can put comma, let's put 5, comma, 11. Okay, and this time I'm going to take this one multiplied by 1 plus uh, 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 this degradation over here. Okay, and we got down to 90. So we've kind of proven it. Now I've done this one before. Annual degradation, 10 years. And this was a tricky one. Assholes. Okay, 11 to 15 years. Okay, and let's get this crap here and put some extra decimals here. And they luckily they didn't. This is percent per annum. Okay, and then let's get this thing in here. There's no such thing as a wind degrading like this, I don't think, anyway. Okay, and so let's put the degradation annual. Let's put the flag for first 10 years. Okay, and let's make that a flag. And then let's, up here we have the operating period, so it's got to be and the operate, and let's put 10 here, and it's got to be and it's got to first be the operating period, and then this operating period counter has to be less than or equal 10, the years. This years has to be less than or equal to this 10, and let's multiply that by 1, and we should, when we copy this, we should get 20 periods. Okay, so we go over here, and let's put flag for after 10 years. Okay, this is really a pain what they're doing here, and it's just slowed me down incredibly. And this would be, and it's got to be the operating period and not this first one. And then we can multiply that by 1. Okay, I'm doing it like that this time. Oh, I'm so fancy. I can do it like that. I'm picking my nose. And then let's just make sure we kind of have a correct sum. Okay, and we got that's 10 periods, and that's another 10 periods. And let's do annual degradation. Okay, and this is percent per P dot A. And let's get the first annual degradation, which is this one, and then the next one, which is this one, and just put this one times the top plus this one times the uh, uh, this one, and I meant this one should have been the one above, okay? And I cannot believe they asked this, I feel like quitting right now. I just, that's so mean, bastards. Okay, and I hope that this works, but then we go to put period, degradation, and period degradation is percent per period. And then what you do is it's semi-annual period, so I'm cheating right now. I'm going to take 1 plus the annual degradation. Don't divide it by 2. You raise it to the 1/2 period, and you put -1, and that's like doing the same thing. Okay, and then you can copy that one, and then below that, let's put degradation index. And let's start with the number 1, and then put an equal sign, go to that 1, put 1 plus the degradation index, and then we, I'm going to leave it like that as a positive. No, oh, there were negatives, so that's okay. And it went down to 90. Oh my God. Oh, is that the coolest thing? Okay, and then finally, we can call this generation before degradation. And I keep saying that that degradation is a subject for me because my brain is degrading. But I'm so proud of what we just did that I sometimes think my brain isn't degrading all that bad. Okay, so how you would get that without it being practiced a bunch, and I have to admit I have practiced this one. I have no clue. Okay, zero clue. Okay, but now we've got a little bit of ups and downs, and we've got the capacity factor. And for me, this is kind of the first the first thing to do. Whoops, I put top and bottom border. So we've got two kind of the three. And how are we doing? It's I've spent an hour already on this. Okay, but we've got the timeline, and we got 2 hours left, and I'm not at all afraid of the offshore wind. I'm a little bit afraid of the other one because now we've got to get the revenues and expenses, and the next one they put the revenues, and they put a 10-year PPA agreement in, and it is awarded and on 2018 and gets a fixed price of 100 per megawatt hour. So we obviously need the in our revenues. So we've got the OPEX. Well, let's put the revenues in, and let's put a PPA price, and let's make the PPA price 100. Okay, oops, and go across, and obviously put here, and this is just USD, USD, whatever. Okay, and again, I'm being a little obsessive, but this is USD per MWH, and that's our first assumption, and then let's look at our next assumption, which is the revenue is paid semi-annually. Fine. At the end of the year, that's what we're assuming with our model with respect to the contract price. 30% is a subject to inflation once per year from the annual award date, those fuckers, with the remaining 70% because it's once a year, not once a half year. So we need a inflation um, rate in BA, and that was 2.5%. Okay, and then I just and then we put percent subject to inflation. Okay, and that is percent, and they said 70%. Okay, oh, look at that, it did it kind of for us, uh, and then we'll put the, I'm just gonna do it like this. I should go a few more because we might have some more, and we go all the way up to the top and press this. Oh shit. Oh God. Control D, Control D. Okay. Okay, fine. Okay, let's because it's getting kind of large. Let's do this, and then let's below the this. I think then they've got to have some merchant price assumptions, right? Okay, blah blah blah. Merchant prices are subject to 1% increase, and in 1 to 5 they're 100, and 6 to 10. Let's make a little table for this. Okay, let's say so let's put a 1. uh, I don't know how to make this table here. Yeah, let's put I want to put 1 here, and then let's put starting merchant price, second. And again, I wanted to put that in with a table, and I can't get it. Start, and then second merchant price, and then third. If we didn't have a sensitivity on this, we could do it. Start and third merchant price. I hope that's all we have. Come on. And how many shit, those bastards. So we have 100, 120, 110. Okay. 100, 120. Ups after year, what was that? Year 10? Was that? Oh, shoot. Okay. I'm still, okay, I'm still going. I'm just, oh, okay. I've got to take a break, which you can't do. Starting in year 6, we've got 120, and starting in year 11, we've got, so we put 6 and 11, we got 110, and we can copy those all the way across. And I got to get rid of my little thing here. And then let's take this one, copy that down, and whoops, why didn't that work? Okay. Okay. Ah, man, what am I doing? Control V and then Control D. Duh, you idiot. Okay, USD per MWH, a year. Okay. Oops. Napoleon said, uh, uh, dress me slowly because I'm in a hurry, and that is an important kind of issue here. So and then the final thing we have merchant price inflation. Now I'm hoping that, and I remember that was 1%, and I'm kind of hoping that the development pipeline stuff, they have a lot less assumptions. So once we get this carrying charge thing worked out, everything will be okay. And let's model those revenues, okay? And then when we model the revenues, I guess the first thing is let's put the PA price. And then, well, let's put the PPA flag. Okay. And the PPA flag is a flag. And they said, did I even put that down? That I did not put the key thing in here, which is the PPA term. And that was in years. And now you can kind of see PPA 10 year, okay? So the last 5 years is all merchant. And again, we put this 10 year, okay? Now, when we do this, yes, when we get to the merchant price, remember there was the merchant price sensitivity, which it would be the biggest sensitivity of all. And I think this was plus or minus 20%. So remember what we do here is we put the merchant prices, let's put be negative like a banker, minus 20%. And then we put we go all the way down here, just shift and control R. And then we put plus 20%, okay? And we've got it all kind of set up here, and let's continue with our PPA, and I'm going to have to take a break a little bit from here. Okay, this is so fucking stressful. Let's take our operating period year and make it less than or equal to this. And then we can also put a little and here and put in the operating period. Now, if you took one of these idiotic classes where they say, "Oh, put everything together and all that," that would be so bad. What? What? If I just lost my file, I'm just giving up. What did I just do though? That sucked. Okay. When you save, press F12, maybe. Okay. It just recovered it. Oh shit. Did I have my? Where are my revenues? Okay, I gotta stop. Okay, let's continue with this hell. And I just the Excel crashed and I couldn't even recover it. And if that happens to you on a real test, I don't know what the hell you do. You cry and beg for a reprieve or something. So let's model the revenues. I forgot what I had done um, here, and I think I had put this like that. Now, what does it look like here? I guess I don't know. Let's put our revenues. Let's start with our PPA flag. Now I'm really losing it. I just got accused of being, fucking hell. Uh, and let's put a flag here and let's get our PPA. Okay. And of course, can you do this quickly? And we just compare that. Remember, that's why it was so crucial to get the operating period years. So we put and it's the operating period and the operating year, which I didn't have to go up like that, is less than or equal to the 10. Okay. And then when we do that, God, oh no, this is really falling apart now. Let's make sure there are 20. Oh, come on. Let's make sure there are 20 periods. I've got a little different thing going on here. I usually have my shortcuts, and this is really hard for me not to use the shortcuts. And now perhaps let's put an inflation index. Uh, and I guess we have to be a little bit careful. Uh, uh, I'm trying to do two things at the same time, which is kind of impossible when you're old like me. But let's do this, and then let's see what they said. I hope what did they say about inflation? Oh, blah blah blah. Okay, where are we? Assumptions, and they said oh God, revenues paid. Annual adjustment for inflation. It's annual, once a year, calculated from the award date. Oh God. Oh, I don't even want to do this. The award date was 2018. So what you would have to do is put 2.5% from, so we'd have to put initial inflation of this raised to the 2018 minus 2022 minus 2018. And of course, I didn't do that right. We'd have to raise 1 plus that uh, uh, to the difference, and then subtract 1. These assholes. There's no other way to say this. And then I get yelled at the same time. Just, I don't know, Alt HO, okay? So what we're going to do is start, in this case, the very first inflation we'll have is 1 plus this number. Oh, and then, oh shit, I can't do my, and then we're going to only on the annual, we only get to escalate it when it's December of each year. So let's take this one multiplied by 1 plus the this one, and now I've got a cheat, and I'm going to put times a month of the period here. Oh shit. Oh fuck. Uh, 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 equals equals 12. Okay, but we got to make sure that the way it worked, I think we might get lucky here. When we go to the first year, oh, luckily it worked. Now it's bad Excel form, so we're just because it happened to work because of the way they structured the dates. So I'm just going to leave that. What a pain. I think this is Macquarie who did this. Typical shit. I'm going nuts. And then, so we got the inflation index, and we'll put PPA rate, and let's do USD per MWH. What? Oh God. I wonder, and then you go through one of these things, and I just got to tell you, you go through one of these things, and then you do a good job on it, and then they tell you, oh, we didn't really have a job anyway. We're hiring internally or something like that. So they just do the test kind of to get rid of you. And PPA subject uh, uh, to inflation because uh, uh, I just I just got yelled at for doing this test. And why did I get, so what? I'm sorry. I'm supposed to do something else. Oh God. And then we multiply this, so we got 70 uh, uh, subject to inflation, and why I'm copying it every time. Totally waste of time and bad form. And then PPA rate with inflation. Okay, so okay, hopefully they're okay. You structured all this all right. And then by putting the inflation rate, we did that. And then let's put PPA PPA rate without inflation. And it's just to type these stupid things in is the worst part of it. And let's just take this one minus this one. And uh, uh, then we have just a minute. How did they do the merchant prices? Off-taker will, the PPA was awarded, the price, revenues paid semi-annually, 30% annual PPA, once a year from the, and what, this contract, merchant prices are real, and they don't say off-taker will pay for all electricity under the 10 years. So really, this this price is kind of irrelevant, but I guess we have to put it in. Okay, why they exactly had you do that, who knows? So then we can put PPA revenues, and we'll just take our why did I do this? This is 100 minus the 70. And then we could put total PPA price, I suppose. Okay, and we it's this plus that, and then we're nice and transparent, and our PPA revenues are the PPA price multiplied by the total generation after the degradation. Okay, which, all right, I'll just leave it like that. And let's go ahead and copy all these. Okay, and I think I probably want to format this like this. Okay, why? Okay, all right, and then so that's our PPA revenues. And why don't we compare our, that's in USD, and I bet you I forgot to multiply it by the flag, which was really, really bad, okay? And then, so we've got our PPA revenues, and then let's put our merchant prices. Uh, and I hope what we can do is kind of put a little data table here, and I hope we can put our 5, 10, and 15, okay? And then I hope we can put our price here right next to it. And I guess we'll put 1 and down here. And then, what we could do is is, I guess, really, this should have been 0, and this should have been uh, 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 this one plus 1, plus 1. I'm really struggling. I'm getting yelled at all the time. Okay, and then we'll put this one plus 1. So from 11 on, it's that one, blah, 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 blah. And let's put our merchant price real. And what did they do here? If they put it in 2018 again, I'm gonna, yes, of course, they put it in 2018. So you're supposed to go backwards and do that inflation and pretend that inflation was the same before. And did they say how they adjust the inflation down here just to where subject to 1% per annum as follows? And they didn't really say, so perhaps we can do the same sort of inflation adjustment. I was thinking about making kind of our little a semi-annual kind of thing. But let's try this. So let's take let's do a little lookup. And when we do a lookup, let's look up on the operating period because it's really not relevant. And then after the operating period, we can take this little table and lock it, and then take this little table and lock it. And I'm not sure that's kind of what they were looking for, but what the heck? Okay, so then we have this one, and then we can do our, uh-oh, huh, did I took the operating, I should have taken the operating year. Excuse me. Okay. And that's why it was crucial to get that operating year. And then they put this stupid inflation index for merchant. How we assuming that this is, let's put USD per megawatt hour and get all that in, and this is period 2, and this is period 3, and then we put our merchant prices in here, and then we put our index in here, and then we'll take our 1%, and finally we'll get finished with this stupid thing, and how the amount of just pure time this wastes. And perhaps I can take this. I just cheated on here. And I think that's probably okay to cheat with something as crazy as that. I take 1 plus that one raised to the 2022 minus, so that gave us 4.1. And then we escalate that. Where did I just, what just happened? Okay. I take 1 plus this one as our starting point. I didn't really have to lock it. And then this one times 1 plus this rate multiplied by the month, and I'm just trying to find this one equal 12. Okay. And that was kind of cheating, and I have to multiply that by 1 plus that. Why? Just a minute. Oh, shit. Damn it. Uh, uh, that one, the prior one, multiplied by 1 plus all that stuff inside. Oh, maybe I had to put this in another bracket. Fine. Okay. He's okay. And then we put merchant price applied. And then after that, so that's going to be that this real price multiplied by this. So we showed we can do a little lookup, and then after that, let's put the merchant revenues. And let's do this now. I'm just I wonder if you went and you took you went on whatever some AI and said just put not, and would it do this whole thing for you? Would it make a model? I had a discussion this morning about whether that would do, and luckily we are either fully merchant or not. So if it's not that period, then we'll take the generation after the degradation, and then we'll multiply it by our merchant revenues, and I get the merchant revenues and waste my time with a stupid asinine formatting because I don't have my generic macros open. So hopefully when you have this, it would really speed it up a lot if you could do that. And then let's take our sum of all our revenues from our PPA. Oh my gosh, is that sounds like a lot. And 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 we had USD per megawatt. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. So if I compare that to the total capex there, whoops. Ah, I have this thing where what happened? Uh, 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 let's just put the sum of this here too. I know I should have done that, but I wanted to take that. So our revenues are kind of this much relative to our capex, meaning we get a really high return, but then we have to put the OpEx in, and we didn't include the merchant revenues, and we can put our total revenues in. Okay. And I think it's a big deal to do everything in, if we were doing it in thousands and always multiplying it by 1,000, I'm wasting enough time because I can't really press on the keyboard properly. I'm going to move a little bit here because I'm getting so angry at this whole process and doing this whole thing. Uh, okay, but and hopefully, I'm old. You have no idea how old I am. I got my first car in the in the middle 70s. Okay, and there we are. And so we've got our revenues, and now let's do our operating expense. Now that's the good news is the financing wasn't that difficult. So for the operating expense, and then I cheated and I looked at the development, and they didn't make the development all that bad really. They made this carrying charge thing very confusing. So we have 25 million in operating expenses, 75% subject to a 2.5% inflation. And hopefully that 2.5% inflation is the same as the one we had above. So let's screw the making another inflation index. So let's put our OPEX here, our operating expenses. And what have I done? Where are all my flags? Where are all my USDTs and USDs? And I'm not going to waste time on that, but we really should be putting all those in. Okay, let's wait and do that at the end, and so try not to forget that. It's just real. They don't say that it's per kilowatt or anything else. It's 25 million. 25, comma, 123, comma, 123. Okay, and there we have it. And let's take one of these and copy it. And we've got that. And were we supposed to do things, something with our operating cost too? And I've got to get rid of our little thing here. And we're finished now with this stupid little risk thing here because the OPEX were probably 10%. Yes, plus and minus 10%, as if that makes any difference because you're not even really thinking about what drives the OPEX up. OPEX plus 10%. And let's go again all the way down and put our OPEX. Oh, come on. I press Control D instead of Control R, and we'll put OPEX minus 10%, which is helping us. And then we can go over here and take, and we've got the whole thing. We've got almost the whole thing done uh, uh, with all of our little sensitivities. And then inflation. Now, watch them have said, and that was 2.5%. And once we have that, we can take out that one the same way. And this time, let's see if we can't cheat with this one. So let's put our real operating expense, and let's call that in USD. Now, we have to be really careful here because we don't, if it's annual, and I think it was annual, we don't want to, annual, we don't want to, whatever. So we'll take this one, multiply it by the operating period, which is this flag, divide it by 12 and multiply it by that 6 months in the period we have. Okay, and that's, I know maybe you thought, oh, that was kind of a pain, but uh, we can do it. Okay, and then we'll put our inflation index. And I think what I'm going to try to do here, let's put subject to inflation. Okay, so we forgot to put that little variable in. Okay, do I need this? It's just so sucko. Okay, 75%. What kind of stupid assumption is that? Well, what? Maybe you think insurance isn't inflating or something, you idiots. Okay, yeah, who knows what they're really doing? Okay, I just press Shift Control 5 and then we'll copy our little index here and then put that here. So this is our 75%, and then we can just take this number, of course, times this one. Okay, and then we have inflation. And let's see if we can trick something. I'm going to take this whole thing we did over here, and let's see if, and let's put this as the inflation rate assumption, and let's see if they, again, assume, don't worry about that little thing because we multiplied it by the month, 2018 real value, again, those assholes. Okay, fine, fine, I'm not afraid, this one, why did that gave us this one, and then this one, we just have to take the right date, because if they're going to be that asinine, we're going to just cheat. Okay, so we've got our inflation. Okay, I can't bear doing this without some of my own shortcuts. I really just can't bear it. I can't take it. And then inflated expenses. and then non-inflated expense, total expense, and we can put an underline there, okay? And the inflated expenses, this one times this one, this this non-inflated expense is the total real minus the inflated expense. This is this plus that. We got to do this horrible thing. I hope I can't remember. Okay, I so rarely do this formatting by hand and all that stuff, and then we've got all this done. And what I would do here, and I find this absolutely essential, is now let's compute our EBITDA. Okay, and then let's compute our free cash flow. And now when they started talking about all of these things and the fee you're paying to the developer and all that, they didn't they presumably mean everything's equity cash flow, but they weren't absolutely clear. This minus the capex, okay, and ah damn, okay, okay, and then let's compute our equity, our project. We can call it project IRR because they said there were no taxes. Okay, and you're going to say, oh my God, this is taking so long, and you're kind of right. But the good news is uh, the other one was kind of, this is kind of interesting, way too high, but presumably who the assholes are, they want this kind of IRO to destroy the world. Okay, and then let's put our financing in. Now, what they did, and here's what I would strongly suggest in terms of laying the whole thing out, I would start with the debt size. And the debt size is if we could take the total project cost, and the problem here is going to be your goddamn circular references. And I really am, they have a couple of goal seeks to combine with a circular reference. And that really, really worries me right now if you're going to use equity IRR. And the project cost is going to be down here. We're going to have a cash flow before COD, and we'll put our capex, and below our capital expenditures, we'll put our interest. How about we'll put our upfront fee, and then we'll put our commitment fee, and then we'll put our interest during construction, okay? And then we'll put our total, and I'm not going to make jokes about IDC for once. And then somewhere here, let's put our debt financing and our equity financing, and then our total finance. Okay, and maybe yeah, okay. And we can sum all this up and get a sources and uses, which is one of the things they wanted. And the total, when we take our total cost here, that's going to be this one. In fact, what I'll even do is go down here and get our total cost. Okay, and then we'll put our max debt to capital, which again, we have to waste time putting in the model. Okay, so we've got this done, and then we put max debt to capital, And I think, what did they have? Okay, that was the next assumption. Uh, Put in to fund a portion of the NTP, they basically say funding everything upfront fee, 2%, 1%, 5% interest rate, debt service timing, monthly, and then semi-annual. That's how we have the model set up. 1.5 DSCR and 80%. So let's put our 80% in first. Okay, we could have put our maximum. So, and then uh, after that, let's put our minimum DSCR, and our minimum DSCR was 1.5. Okay, and uh, where's something where you had a decimal? I didn't have one. Okay, errors. Oh God. Okay, that worked actually. Why did that work? Okay, and then we'll put our interest rates. Our interest rate uh, uh, percent P dot A, and this should be times, and this should be a percent, and this should be percent per annum. God damn it, God damn it. Okay, and then whatever. So just a percent, and blah, 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 blah. Okay, and this was 5%. Okay, and then when we do this, I'm going to have to move really fast to get this done, and then we have our upfront fee, and then commitment fee, and then they of course this is we're going to have to make some adjustments because it's all monthly and all that stuff. So oh God, okay, this is 5% upfront, 2%, 1%. Okay, and this commitment fee is a percent per annum of 1%. Should be kind of vaguely related to the credit spread, and this was 2%. Okay, and then we have all of our assumptions really done, and once we have all of these assumptions finished, we're basically going to be able to get the equity return. So now I've spent another 33 minutes. We're at an hour 33. This is kind of good news. We're probably going to be able to finish in an hour, in 3 hours. Okay, and God, how boring. The fact that I've done this for 3 hours is just, what a miserable thing you poor people have to do. So from debt to capital is multiply these two together, which we haven't done yet. And then we'll put, let's put our DSCR in just to get that from our thing. And then we better put CFADS. And our CFADS for right now, we're going to make that equal to EBITDA because we don't have any taxes or working capital changes. So we have this done. And we've already computed our EBITDA up here, okay? And then I don't know why I'm copying it across, but I did anyway. And then let's just only, now we know that this is going to, let's take the debt, maximum debt service that we can afford. And that's going to be, let's take our same, this one, and we take this divided by that. Okay, and I just locked it. Okay, and hopefully, okay, and okay, and after we locked it, then we say, okay, well, I'm going to change this and put a little if statement here. And that's my trick. If I put an if statement and only do it during the operating period, okay, then we can take the NPV NPV of the maximum debt service, and that's how much our debt is by doing this. But let's get our interest rate, and instead of worrying a whole lot about it, I'm just going to take this one divided by 2, okay? And then I'm going to take shit. Okay, and then I'm going to take our NPV at that lower interest rate and take this whole thing, and that gives me my uh, alt H9. Let's do it like that. That gives the debt we can afford, and that debt we can afford relative, which is even more than the capex. So you know that's not going to be the one in place. But I forgot something, and I forgot to up here put the debt tenor, and if the debt tenor is less than 15 or 20-year period or 15-year period or whatever it was 15 years. So the debt equal to debt fees. Where was this? Where was the thing here? Come on. It, where did it tell me about the debt tenor? Debt placed in service, debt fees, construction, interest, 10 years. So we only have 10 years. And I forgot to reflect that, so that that tenure again, and we have to put this in, and now I'm going kind of too fast. Okay. Okay, and let's put our 10 years here. Okay, and if they wouldn't give you credit for setting up a nice model, they can all go to hell. They really can. And they're probably going to tell you, oh, they're going to give you little stupid stuff, and we put, and it's the operating period and this operating year. Can you see how important that operating year was? Okay, and maybe I'm going to multiply that by 1 to make sure I got it all right. And then we better take our CFADS, let's just multiply that by the operating period. So now we have less debt. We have 502 debt. And can you see kind of to test this a little bit as you're going along, I think would be kind of a good idea. And let's now do the other method. Let's put in the capex. Oh, what happened here? Oh my gosh. Let's put in the capex, and we've got the total capex. They said we can fund all of that stuff. I don't know why I'm copying it across. And then we're going to get our upfront fee and our debt fee, but we really don't know this until we put a debt balance in here. And our debt balance, we'll put an opening balance, and then we'll add the amount of debt draws and less the debt repayments, and put a closing balance so I don't have to tell you what I'm typing. And then let's put our period interest rate, which we're going to take the 5% divided by 12 or divided by uh, 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 2. And then let's put the upfront front fee in here, and let's put the, no, of course, before we do that, let's put the total interest cost. And then below the interest cost, let's put the interest during construction. And then I'll call it IDO, so interest during operation. Okay, and the upfront fee and the undrawn balance. And then the periodic commitment fee and the commitment fee. Now this causes the famous circular reference, and I'm really having a dilemma as to whether we should put this in or not. And given the 3 hours, it seems to be a little bit of a pain to put in. But for now, let's just get the whole thing started with, and if we have a few minutes at the end, we can add that. And for the commitment fee, let's go down here and get the commitment fee. And for the interest during construction, let's go down here into this one and get the IDC, and then we can add up all of our costs together. Okay. And we can put these in, and then we're on our way. Okay, so far nothing's in there. And then we get our total. This is a big one. This sum is a big one. This is our total cost. So for now, let's take that total cost, uh, and and I wonder if you would give me any credit for talking while I'm doing this. We'll take the cost here, and let's kind of put this over here maybe, and then we'll take the debt applied, which is the minimum of these two amounts of debt. So though, if you can kind of show you're doing that, I think that's a kind of big deal. And this case, I suppose, has a lot. And then we could put a debt to capital applied. Now this isn't quite finished. It's this debt, which comes from the debt to capital divided by the total project cost. So we've got our 80% debt, and then for the debt financing, we can use that because they said pro rata, we can use that debt. Perhaps that's really not necessary, but we can take this total and multiply that by our 80%. If I can't kind of stand the world right now where some people could go on this Reddit and say, oh, start doing it all wrong. Then, okay, and then once we have our total debt, then we can put in this, and the circular reference should be having your head spinning right now because we have the debt draws and then the debt repayments we'll do in just a minute. And the closing balance is the opening plus the draws minus the debt. And then we can take a 5% interest rate, but we take that 5% interest rate and then let's just divide it by 12, multiply it by how many months we had in our period, which is either 1 or 6. I hope you can see, oh my gosh, uh, uh, this really was important to kind of do all of this stuff with all the timelines. And then once we have our interest cost, we can take this, multiply it by the opening balance, and then we can take, if this interest is during the construction period, which is this one, we can call it IDC. If this is during the operation period, we take this one. And for the upfront fee, we could put our FC flag, and our FC flag is way up here. Now, if you have been doing a whole lot of modeling already, and the total debt, we can take our up here, our total debt commitment up here. I've lost it with the units by now, but whatever, is this amount. And we can take this times this one, um, times the upfront fee, which I haven't put in here yet. And let's get our upfront fee. And there we go. And this is the pain of this is so immense, I can hardly stand it. Now I'm just, what I do with the undrawn balance is I just start with this one and take away the opening balance of the debt. Whoops. Okay. Minus, so I just lock in the total commitment minus the amount up front and the periodic commitment fee. I'll take our commitment fee here and do the same thing we did with the interest rate, which we take this one divided by 12, multiply it by the 1. We wouldn't really have to do that, but it might be a nice kind of form. Okay, and then once we have that, we can get our total commitment fee times this. Okay, and if we leave that circular reference button thing on, the iteration button on, what a waste. I need to do, why I wouldn't do this with a generic macro, I have no clue. Okay, and let's put our closing balance, and right now our closing balance doesn't go to zero because we we uh, uh, um, we haven't put any repayments in. Okay, but we have kind of everything modeled, and the final thing we can do is put a cash flow waterfall, which they call the sources and uses after construction or something. We can put our EBITDA and then less the debt service, and they wanted a summary on an annual basis. We'll do the goddamn thing, and then we'll put our dividends, and then below the dividends, we'll put our equity investment, and then we'll have our equity cash flow, and I can't do many of these. And finally, our equity IRR, and the equity IRR is going to be a whole lot above the 12% because uh, uh, because the interest rate is 4%. And if I made some little mistake, who gives a shit? Really, if you demonstrate, if somebody's so asinine that they're going to worry about oh no, you put this little inflation rate wrong or something like that. You didn't understand what we were talking about. Go to hell, really. Okay, I'm just going to do some of these damn things here. Not too many of them. Okay, and maybe I should put a little underline here. And I'm wasting time right now, which is what I'm sure you should never do. Okay, but good. Okay, here we go. Oh my God. And when I saw this Reddit thing or something like that, ah, shit, I'm gonna leave that stupid underline out. Okay, now the to do we need to get our debt service, and to get our debt service, let's now, when we did this, by the way, notice how the in this case, because we're 24 months and we have some fees and all that, uh, we have this went up to 631, and now our debt to capital is driven by the maximum of 80% still. No, it isn't. It's driven by the DSCR. Okay, and then we can let's over here, let's put do a little bit for our debt repayment. And for the debt repayment, now if you say, oh, you're going back and forth the other way, it was so logical before, otherwise, and that's true because there's a goddamn circular reference. Let's put our CFADS in here again and get that. That was up here. And I think we can do it over the debt tenor again. Okay, and then we take our uh, 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 CFADS, well, we already have our debt service. I'm going to put our target, debt service target. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is just to show you, just in case it's not the DSCR that drives the whole thing. So we take, instead of this, I'll take the maximum debt service and I'll multiply that by 1. Okay, I'm going to do it like that. I'm sorry. And then down here, our repayment is the debt service we have minus the interest we pay during the operations. Okay, and when you do that, it goes to zero like magic. It doesn't always go to zero, so it's probably a good idea to put a minimum of this or the opening balance. And that's what you want to do. You want to show that you can do all of this stuff really, really quickly. And then we're going to show that when we take the sum of all of the debt draws, and the one good thing they didn't ask for. Thank the fucking Lord. They did not ask for a balance sheet. And these assholes, I hate it. Oh, I'm Wall Street crap. I do a three statement financial model. What a bunch of shit. Really. Okay, you can kind of test out the balance sheet. So we get our debt service. I'm sorry I got emotional about that. Then we go down and we get our debt service. And our debt service is this time, just in because we put that minimum here, our debt service is our repayment plus our IDO, not our, and then we can take that one, this one, minus this one equals our dividends. Our equity investment comes from our here are sources and uses, and our equity cash flow is our dividend minus this, and then we'll get our thing done. And we've done this whole kind of offshore wind with and this is XIRR, and then we take all of those, okay, and we get an enormous IRR. Ridiculous kind of, oh, I'm private equity, I need that kind of IRR. Okay, a ridiculous kind of thing. Okay, unrealistic, because if you're ever bidding, you'd lose every bid on that kind of stuff. And if I got something wrong, totally possible, but we got it built. So now we've got one model built. Now we got to do the whole other model. Okay, but the whole other model, it turns out it's not quite as bad as I thought it would be. And we have an hour to finish the other model and then put things together. And I would be worried at this point a little bit because I'm not going to quite finish. Throw a summary stories, blah, blah, blah. And where are we now? Standalone pipeline development. Okay. Oh, I've gone too far. Excuse me. So we want to do a standalone pipeline development. Okay, to develop the project, financial close, there's 1.5 gigawatts. Let's put this in megawatts. So we'll put total, so we'll call that development pipeline at uh, 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 at FC. Okay, and this is in MW and it's 1,500. Okay, I think. Okay, and then we, of course, do exactly the same thing. And there, instead of merchant prices, they had uh, uh, something else. I forgot. Okay, I suppose we should waste our time looking at that. Okay, okay, and come on. Okay, conversion sales pipeline plus or minus, pipeline sales proceeds, carrying cost. So we have three things: conversion sales, whatever that means. Admitting, okay. Okay, plus 20% or something. Okay, and then of course we do this kind of stuff and then put minus 20%. That was again a control R, okay. And then we put whatever the other one was, sales proceeds. Uh, I'll put plus 20%. I can't remember if it was plus or minus. And then we could put minus. And then just in case, I'll add something here. And then we put carrying cost plus 10% or whatever it was. And then minus 10%. Okay, so we've got that kind of set up. And then again, Control R. So that was our first thing that we had. And then we can go right into this and put quantities. And we'll put total capacity at FC. Now, what they did here, they tried to make it nice, I suppose. Uh, and when they did that, they okay. Where in the hell is this? I'm not inebriated for people on Reddit who my daughter said, "Oh, what's the matter?" I am just pissed off. Okay. And then we put, after that, let's put the next assumption, which they had in here. Okay. And they said, okay, 1.5 gigawatts, carrying cost 1,500 per megawatt. Okay, let's put this, it's kind of like there aren't really CapEx, we'll just put carrying cost per megawatt per year. Okay, and that was, what was that? Was that another 1,500? Was that the same thing? 1,500 per megawatt. And then, okay, okay, well, that's the same number. And, and this is USD per MW-Y. And then we have inflation. If they put it in 2018 again, I'm going to explode. Percent per annum, P dot A. Okay, and again, if I make mistakes somewhere, somewhere, tough skip. Obviously, I'm trying to hurry and whatever. Napoleon said, "Dress me slowly. I'm in a hurry." You know that saying, and I screwed that up yesterday. Real 2022. For once, they didn't make us make that stupid little adjustment. Okay. Uh, 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 and so we can put 2.5%. So they made things a tiny bit easier because they're cruel, but I mean they're not like this is they're not totally sadistic, okay? And I wonder if anybody actually practiced this when they make up this crap, okay? And then let's see what other assumptions they had. Okay, and then the pros, where's, so assume 300 megawatts are sold every 3 years. with the first occurring in December 21, 31 of 2025. So let's put sale of project sale, period in years, and we'll put our 3 years here, and we'll use a little mod function for that, okay? And we might have a little bit of a problem because we only have to do it at the beginning of the year or I guess it's the end of the year probably, and then MW sold. Okay, so I think this is almost really like a quantity. I think this is more up here, and really we don't have many assumptions, and they're kind of, they said it's all equity financing. So this is a little bit easier, and I should kind of relax a little bit, but I can't. I'm going crazy. I'm literally, I think, going insane because of this. Okay, and this is MW. This is the amount of MWs we sell. So we're going to have to keep track of an opening balance, and we're going to sell something. And after we sell something, our carrying costs are going to go down. And that's kind of the, seems to be a little bit of the analysis of this pipeline, the way I understand it. Okay, and frankly, it took a little bit of, it was for me totally not clear. Proceeds from the sale are 2,000, 20,000, and not subject to inflation adjustments. And it doesn't say there's any kind of upfront investment. It does kind of, so you have to hold the projects for a while, and then you sell them, and it's kind of all a bunch of mush that I see. I can't see this as having any relevance to anything real. But let's put the 20,000 sale, and there's no inflation. So a lot of this seems to be for NW, and we put 20,000. If somebody disagrees with this, I would be absolutely fascinated. Send a comment like all those other people say. Nobody'd ever do that except they say, maybe sometimes they say, you made a stupid error. Okay, and let's put our conversion. What in the hell is our conversion? Maybe I am wrong. Just a minute. Uh, 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 just a minute. They put, okay, this conversion and sales means how much they sell of the pipeline. So this conversion sales up or down would be, I think it would be this thing times 1.2 and this thing times 0.8. Sales proceeds, that's the this one times 1.2, this one times 0.8, and blah, 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 carrying cost. This one times 1.2, and this one times 0.8. And then what we could do is we could say, we'll put up here, for example, on this one, let's put the equity IRR. And so we could then say, here's what we can do, and I don't know what they would do with all of this stuff if you if we make scenario number 2 and scenario number 3 and scenario number 4. That's a really bad one. What's scenario number 4? The capacity factor one. Scenario number 5 is ridiculous. Scenario number 6. Okay, so that's kind of the idea, and then we can up here put do the same thing, put the equity IRR here, and kind of get it. And then what we can, once we have this thing here, I'm going to go ahead and put our consolidated, and I'm going to put equity cash flow from OS, offshore wind. Uh, is that it? Is that what it is? Okay, I'm so dyslexic, it's ridiculous. Offshore wind farm. Is that what they call it? Oh shit. What a waste of time. Offshore. OF. It is OFSW. Offshore wind. Sorry. Okay, whatever. What a waste of time. How could I do this? Offshore offshore wind. Okay, god damn it. Okay, offshore wind. Okay, I did it okay there. And then, so here, okay, from an offshore wind, OS, OFSW. Okay, and we can just, because, we did it like this, because it's all got the same thing. Now, of course, I didn't go to the end, and I've got to press Control 0, and then, okay, we copy that across, and then we can put our equity cash flow from our pipeline. Now, I suppose you didn't, I suppose because the timing happens to be the same, you could have done it all in the same spreadsheet, couldn't you have? And perhaps, I don't know if that's what they thought. So let's go over here, and they didn't really give us any kind of end time in. What I'm going to do on this one is oh, I already put the end here. I'm just going to keep this, and what should happen is that we okay, that's our starting capacity, and then, oh, come on, what if I just lost it again? Oh my God. Okay. Oof. I was, what did I do? What in the heck did I do wrong just now? I have no clue. Okay, how about this? I'm just gonna press Shift Control 1 here. I'm so sick of this. And then let's down here, go down and put our sale. Uh, uh, uh. Let's put our year, uh, 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 year, year of sale. How's that? Okay, and when we put our year of sale here, we're going to go up to the operating year. Let's put our mod, and let's put a flag. Let's make this a flag variable and get this 3. Okay. And once we get the 3, we take the operating year mod of this operating year, or 3, and we do that, and then we better put that equal to 0. If we do that, it's not quite going to work, because, whoops, first of all, we've also got to take this whole thing, and we've got to multiply this by the operating period. And why can't I do that? What's going on now? Oh, okay. And when we do this, we're gonna, once we finally get to this, and they even told us when the first sale period is, and they said the first sale period is when did they tell me the first sale period was? 2025. And I think, oh shit. Uh, uh, just a minute. Well, that was, they said it was the first sale period was 2025. Oh crap. Assume that every 3 years post financial close. Okay, so we really have to get a counter from the financial close. So I'm going to modify this from FC counter. How's that? So we'll just make this one equal to this plus one. That's oops. No shit. This has got to be just a minute. I'm getting too fancy. Let's put this in months. So let's take this one plus let's take the months in the period, okay? And then once we do this, instead of dividing it by 2, we round up and divide it by 12. Okay, and then once we do that, I'm doing that very, very quickly. Then our first time we hit a 3, come on, come on, come on, 2, 2, 2, where is the, uh, uh, we're taking 24, and then I should be adding 6 to this, and I added the wrong thing, again, my Napoleon principle, which is it should have been this one. Okay, sorry about that. So then we go across, and then we have here 2 3s, and that's what I'm worried about. And we only want it when it's December. So I'm gonna put year of sale, and then I'm gonna put period of sale. And let's make another flag for that. Okay, and on this flag, let's put 12. Okay, that's I cheated. That's extremely bad. They'd kill us for that. Okay, and we'll put month of this one, and we're cheating again, equals 12. So we're just going to do it at the end of the year, and then what our end, we'll call this the end of year, and then we'll put period of sale. Okay, and another flag, and this is really just something else, kind of like this. And basically it's this times this. Okay, and now what we did is it took so long to get there, but we have a 1 period and 1 period instead of 2 periods, and that's what we'll have there. And then we'll put MW sold. And we'll put MW, and that's our little development assumption here. And we put this one, lock this one, and multiply it by a little flag. So they're obviously testing you. They're doing a lot of tests for you on being able to make the flags. And then let's put a capacity balance, and we'll put, how about an opening balance less sold. And we better put a minimum there and a closing balance. Because if you don't have any left, you can't sell it. So we make the opening balance equal to closing balance. Let's take the MW sold, and let's take this one minus this one, and then we'll get the whole capacity. And these are all in megawatts, okay? And then what did I do wrong? Okay, good. So that, oh no, we gotta, we maybe we put add the initial capacity. Capacity, and I'm gonna do a ridiculous cheat here. I'm gonna say that take this one and multiply by this number equals 1, because that's our financial close. Okay, and so what happened is we whoops, and then the closing balance has to add that one. Okay, and then we're selling all our capacity. Now, if we sold more or less capacity, remember that scenario, we better up here, the amount we sell, we better put a minimum here of this or the opening balance because we can never sell more than the opening balance. And now once we have all of that, we can let's try to figure out our carrying charges. Um, uh, uh, and then the carrying charges we put in here 1,500 per year, and then we got to do all the inflation business, blah 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 blah. And on the inflation business, do they say subject to 2.5% per annum? They don't really say it. I'm going to do the inflation on a monthly basis or on a periodic basis because it'll actually be easier. So this is USD per MWY, okay, and then we better uh, 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 when we put it per MWY, we better take this one, divide it by 12, multiply it by how many periods we have in the year. Okay, so that's without inflation, carrying charges without inflation. Okay, and how are we doing, by the way? Okay, this is another hour. So I've got 2 hours. I spent 2 hours of set and 17 minutes on this. And then let's put our inflation uh, uh, index. Now what I would do here, I'm going to put inflation rate. Okay, and put a percent. And this time, let's take that 2.5%. Okay, and when we take that 2.5%, let's take 1 plus that 2.5%, raise it to the period of the months in the period divided by 12. So that will be 6 divided by 12 or 1 divided by 12. And I took the wrong number there. Okay, and put -1. And that'll give us our periodic inflation rate. Okay, and Alt H9. Come on, you damn shit thing. I'm really not. Okay, I can't. I totally object to doing this, but I'm gonna have to. Ugh, horrible. And then let's put our inflation index. So that's this decompounding. I call it decompounding of the inflation rate. Okay, and let's put a 1 here and take this, multiply this by 1 plus the inflation rate. And we have our little inflation index, and then we can put carrying charges with inflation. Okay, and that's another USD per MWY. Okay, and this is this times this. Okay, I'm just going to shift control 1 here. And then we'll, let's multiply that. Okay, total carrying charges. Okay, somebody's being too loud down there. We take this one, we multiply this by the balance that they didn't really tell us, but I'm going to use the closing balance. I know it's always better to use the opening balance. So because we're going to sell this at the very, very end of the period. Okay. So that's our amount. Now, why, just a minute, why did this not go down to 0? Just a minute. I thought it just went down to 0. What in the heck just happened here? Okay. Ah, crap. I'm gonna cheat. I just had typed some stupid little thing in there. I cheated because this is exactly the same kind of thing, a mistake you might make, and then our carrying charges go down to zero. And so there we have our carrying charges gradually going down to zero, and now we can just put in our sale proceeds. And I suppose, should I give them any kind of credit at all? Because, you know, I guess if you had a lot more time, maybe they're kind of just doing some portfolio. Okay. And we multiply that by the amount we sell. Okay. And then we have a completely different kind of equity cash flow, which is just how much we get versus how much we sell. And sometimes I guess I hate to do this, but I almost have to admit, like, you can learn from some of this stuff. And then, okay, oh God, because it's XIRR, I got to put minus 0.001 or something like that. And then let's put our equity IRR, okay? And let's put our percent and put a X IRR. And I'm debating what to do now. Oops, okay, of course, I'm losing it. Um, um, okay, and we've got this finished. Oh, that's kind of interesting. If control 5, but this is kind of a more reasonable thing than the other one. Now I'm a tiny little bit worried I made some kind of mistake on the offshore wind, but we can put our equity from the pipeline together with our other equity cash flow, and we can maybe get our total cash flow. Okay, and I'm not going to do too many of these annual things, but so let's kind of see some of the other stuff they wanted. If you now here's there's one thing I admit I didn't really understand, but at least we kind of have the model done. And I don't know, we could, let's do a kind of I don't know, what do they want us to do? Let's just see that. And so in a way, we finished the model a little bit early, and I went really fast, and I probably made some mistakes. Okay, recalculate the required X equity investment based on the cash flows and the funding requirements of the, well, that's what we just did. Okay. And I suppose, we could, you could put more together here, but screw it. I didn't ask for this, so we could get all the kind of equity outflows and inflows and do this, and I don't know. Okay, some summary cash flows and whatever. Okay, that's the way I interpret what they're kind of asking for now. This offshore wind was producing so much. I'm kind of skeptical and that IRR was so high. I almost want to look and see if I made some mistake, which I probably did. We put the degradation in, those CapEx look okay. We were fairly careful with the price that escalated. We multiplied that by a correct amount of generation, and then we put in the merchant revenues, and the merchant revenues occurred way after that, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, and then let's see, results and summary overview, show a summary sources and uses during construction for the OSW, and we just take the sum. I'm not gonna fucking bother with that, okay? And then the merchant revenues, we can do that. Show a summary of cash flows on an annual basis. It doesn't say whether to do that for each one, but let's just show you how easy that is to do. So let's just kind of put for the summary cash flows, maybe, whoops, maybe we'll just, what we need to do is put here a year, okay? And they made it easy for us kind of by putting a year here, and 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 once you put a year in, then you can put put an annual, okay? Yes, right. Okay, and for the annual, let's do waste of time, this stuff, and go over here and put year, and go down maybe over here and put our first year, which was 2023, and maybe let's find some titles to do in this one. How about this? We don't want to put in, maybe instead of putting all this crap, let's put the cash flow before COD. So let's take these few lines down here, and then uh, after that, let's do the kind of the cash flow waterfall, and that will give us our summary sources and uses too. So let's take this one. And then, we since the timelines were exactly the same, which is the unrealistic part of this whole thing, we can also put the development, okay, and we can put the cash inflow and the cash outflow. And we could get a little bit fancier here, but let's just plus one, and we have to do about 20 years or something like that. And then all you do is you put equals sum if, and you go to the this one, and you click on the year, the whole year, and then you press F4, not F5, F4. And then you go back to your annual one, and you press F4 two times. And then after you do that, you go back to the place you were starting. And where was the cash flow statement that I was looking for? It was down here somewhere, right? Was it? I hope it was this one. And I think I forgot to put in I put the uses, but not the sources. So let's go and get the sources of financing here. Okay, that's our assumptions. Sorry about that. And come on, please. Okay, let's put them kind of like this, and go down here. Okay. And this is where I messed up my whole USD stuff. And once you've done this, like this, I can just go Shift Control 1, Alt 8, 9, Alt 8, 9, and then I can go down, all the way down, and just copy this. And it's all done. And then we've got our annual stuff, just with a simple little sum if. Oh. So yeah, that was okay. That was our, maybe I'll make it a little wider, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and Okay, there was that. And then let's do the same thing for our cash flow waterfall. Okay, and but this time, make sure you take the right little thing from our financial model, and please, equity cash flow. I don't really want the equity IRR. And I probably did that equity IRR just does not seem kind of plausible. I have to do something, and then let's finally do it with the other one, so we can just whoops, because we happen to have exactly the same timeline, we can just take this one from our development model, and I think I said I started with the inflows, right? And then copy that down and take the cash outflows. Now, some of these questions, I'm just going to stop. I can't take it anymore. I really, really can't. And you can, if somebody really wants me to do some of this other stuff, then where's our carrying charges? That's our cash outflow. Okay, and then we can do this. And would you mind if I do something? I'm going to open my generic macros. Okay, and after we open the generic macros, okay, this is why I couldn't stand doing it the way I did it. Okay, first of all, I'm just gonna put some things here. I'm gonna make all of my stuff formatted nicely as I was going nuts with all that stuff, and let's make it wider enough to take everything. And then how about this? Shift Control G and another Shift Control G down here. Okay, and then we can format all of this stuff much better. Okay, and put all of our nice kind of formats in here. Same here. Okay, and then we can do the on our consolidated model as well. And then what we can do up here is on our assumptions, we can press Control Alt C, and we can make a nice little, you know, I think this is probably a nicer picture where we're clearly showing what's an input and what's an output, and we can do that on this one too. Okay, and after we do it on this one, we can then take this stuff and I'll format some of this stuff all the way down here. I think I can do it like this. And I guess I have to do a little bit wider when I do that. Okay, and I just couldn't take that. Okay, Shift Control Q maybe, something like that. All right, I'm not going to do it all. And then I'm going to press Control Alt C, and I'm just going to do the coloring the sheet and show what's a flag. The blue ones came from the other sheet, and there was a yellow input I saw, so we had all of that, and the same thing here. Okay, enough of that. Now I kind of have to fix the coloring of the whatever of the other stuff a little bit. Now I think these questions, this one really bothered me. We can show the DSCRs, okay, and that's only the DSCRs are only relevant to the offshore wind project. Multiple of money, just add up all the inflows and outflows. What a bullshit statistic, okay? In relation to the NTP fee, what's the discount rate? I really didn't quite get that. I think the idea is that the I don't know. What discount rate does it represent? For me, that's just, I didn't understand the question, sorry. If they were targeting an equity IRR, well, they could pay a whole bunch more. Now, I'm afraid to do a goal seek because if we just do a sensitivity here and we've got scenario number one in here and we put a much, much higher NTP in of 500,000, whatever. Okay, then, oh, that's too little. And we could try to do a goal seek where, and it's not going to work, where we put something like a 10% IRR and then we go to our formulas and we would, it's not formulas, the data and what if and goal seek. And if we set this to a 10% IRR, I don't think it's going to work because of a circular reference. Okay, let's see. And it doesn't. And the only way to do that, that's my whole theme in my life is to use a UDF to fix that and to fix a whole bunch of other things in the model. Or you could do a copy and paste, and then you'd have to do the whole copy and paste thing. So that one really bothers me, that question, and I don't know why they asked it, and unless they are assuming you're gonna be really fancy and do a whole circular reference, but are you really gonna put that in and then get this whole thing done in a couple of hours the way they wanted? So I think I'm going to stop, and then you can kind of the rest of this summary stuff, and I don't know what this really means. Okay, the sell down, when the sell down of the pipeline, assuming no change in what purchase price could we pay if we wanted a 10%, assuming no changed, what purchase price could we pay for the developer pipeline? So they're putting things together, targeting a 10%. So we didn't do the full portfolio perhaps. And the full portfolio is is well, okay, here our overall equity IRR on our full portfolio is maybe X IRR of this total and this one, and I didn't see where it said how much are you going to pay. So this is 22% still. It's all really, really high because of the offshore wind. Maybe I just made a mistake. And maybe I'd have a half an hour left to look at it and try to find it. I didn't see it. So I'm going to stop. I've had enough. I think that's enough. It's 2.5 hours of watching this shit. Impossible. But it's got some complexities and maybe you can get